5 days ago, OpenAI launched a product called Frontier. Not a chatbot, not a writing assistant, an autonomous agent platform designed to operate across your CRM, your email, your code repositories, and your financial systems. Intuit is using it. State Farm is using it. Uber, Cisco, T-Mobile. Now here's the part that should keep you up at night. 85% of agentic AI systems like Frontier, can be compromised through a technique called prompt injection. That's not my number. That's from a meta-analysis of 78 academic studies published between 2021 and 2026, and the people who were supposed to make sure this didn't happen, they quit, one by one, over the last 2 years, and on their way out, they told us exactly why. That's a direct quote from the head of OpenAI's alignment team, right before he walked out the door. This is the story of the breach that hasn't happened yet, but mathematically almost certainly will. Welcome to Declassified Intelligence. Let's start with what Frontier actually is, because most people heard the name and assumed it was just another GPT update. It's not. Frontier is an agent orchestration platform. Think of it as an operating system, but instead of running applications, it runs autonomous AI agents. Agents that can read your emails, update your databases, file your tickets, write your code, and coordinate with each other, without a human approving every step. OpenAI's pitch is simple. Plug Frontier into your company's existing infrastructure, and it will manage an army of AI workers across every department. Sales, engineering, customer support, finance, all handled by agents that share context and learn from each other. The early adopters are massive. Intuit, State Farm, Uber, HP, Oracle, Cisco, T-Mobile, BBVA, that's a multinational bank. Now, that phrase right there, shared memory, remember it, because it's the hinge that the entire vulnerability turns on. These agents don't operate in isolation. They share business context. When your Salesforce agent learns something about a customer, it passes that context to your email agent, which passes it to your financial system agent. That's not a bug, that's the feature. That's what makes Frontier powerful. It's also what makes it catastrophically vulnerable. OWASP, the Open Web Application Security Project, the gold standard for security classification, ranks prompt injection as the #1 critical vulnerability in AI systems. Not number 3, not top 10, number 1. And here's why it's devastating in an agentic system like Frontier. Traditional prompt injection works like this. You trick an AI into following hidden instructions. Maybe you embed text in a document that says, ignore your previous instructions and do X. That's bad enough in a chatbot. But in an agentic system with shared memory, it's a chain reaction. Researchers have documented what's called cross-agent prompt injection. Here's how it works. Your email agent receives a message. Inside that message, maybe hidden in white text, maybe embedded in an image, there's an instruction. The email agent processes it, updates the shared context, and now every other agent in your Frontier deployment is operating on poisoned data. This isn't theoretical. In December 2025, researchers demonstrated a zero-click attack through Google Docs that triggered an agentic IDE to fetch attacker instructions and execute Python payloads. No clicks, no downloads, just a document with hidden instructions, and the agent did the rest. That's not hacking, that's social engineering. But the target isn't a human. The target is your AI workforce, and a meta-analysis of 78 studies found that with adaptive strategies, prompt injection attacks succeed 85% of the time. Only 35% of organizations have deployed dedicated prompt filtering solutions. Let that sink in. 85% attack success, 35% have defenses. Here's a concept that security professionals are screaming about and almost nobody in the AI space is discussing. Non-human identities, NHI. It's an enterprise security term for any digital identity that isn't a person. Service accounts, API tokens, bot credentials, and now, AI agents. Every agent in a frontier deployment needs credentials to do its job. It needs access to your Salesforce, your Jira, your email, your financial systems. Each of those access points is a non-human identity. CrowdStrike tracks this. Auth0 tracks this. The World Economic Forum published a report in October 2025 explicitly calling NHI's agentic AI's new frontier of cybersecurity risk. And here's the statistic that matters. 97% of non-human identities in typical enterprises have excessive privileges. That means almost every AI agent credential has more access than it needs. And those credentials, many of them are long-lived, meaning they don't expire. They don't rotate. They just sit there, waiting to be compromised. So you've got agents that can be tricked through prompt injection, operating with credentials that give them more access than they need, sharing memory with every other agent in the system. That's not a security model. That's a daisy chain waiting for a spark. Now here's where this story goes from concerning to alarming. The people who were specifically hired to make sure AI systems like Frontier were safe, they left. Not one of them, almost all of them. May 2024. Ilya Sutskever, co-founder of OpenAI, chief scientist, the person who understood the architecture better than almost anyone alive, leaves the company. Same month, John Likey, the head of OpenAI's super alignment team, the group literally responsible for making sure advanced AI stays under control, resigns. And on his way out, he posts publicly. That's not a disgruntled employee venting. That's the head of alignment telling you in plain language that the guardrails are down. Then John Schulman, another OpenAI co-founder focused on alignment, leaves for Anthropic. October 2024. Miles Brundage, head of policy research at OpenAI, departs. He publicly warns that the industry and OpenAI are not ready for AGI risks. December 2024. Rosie Campbell, safety researcher, follows Brundage out the door. 2025, Lillian Wang, VP of Research and Safety, gone. After Likey left, OpenAI disbanded the entire super alignment team. The team whose job was to solve the alignment problem, dissolved. And in its place, OpenAI established something called the Frontier Risk Council and an advisory group of external security practitioners, not internal researchers, not the people who built the models, external consultants. So let me make sure you're following this. The internal safety team quit because they said safety wasn't a priority. The company disbanded what was left of that team. Then, they launched Frontier, an autonomous agent platform with enterprise-wide access, and staffed the safety oversight with an external advisory board. That's not a safety strategy. That's a PR strategy. Let's talk probability, not hype, not fear, math. OWASP says 73% of production AI systems are vulnerable to prompt injection. Academic research says attacks succeed 85% of the time with adaptive strategies. Auth0 says 97% of non-human identities have excessive privileges. Only 35% of organizations have prompt filtering deployed. MITRE Atlas, the AI-specific threat framework maintained by the same organization that built the ATT&CK framework used by every security team on Earth, now documents 66 distinct attack techniques against AI systems, with 14 new techniques added in October 2025, specifically for agentic AI. Now, Frontier is deployed at Intuit, State Farm, Uber, Cisco, T-Mobile, BBVA, and others. These are companies handling millions of customer records, billions in transactions, and sensitive personal data across every system those agents touch. Given those numbers, 73% vulnerable, 85% attack success, 97% overprivileged credentials. The question isn't whether a major agentic AI breach will happen. The question is whether it's already happened, and nobody's detected it yet. Because here's the thing about agent-based attacks. They look like normal operations. An agent accessing a database isn't suspicious. That's its job. An agent sending an email isn't suspicious. That's what it does. The entire attack surface is disguised as normal business activity, and OpenAI themselves acknowledged this. In December 2025, they published a statement saying prompt injection may never be fully solved, but that continuous rapid response reduces real-world risk. May never be fully solved. And they launched Frontier 2 months later. So, if you're an enterprise deploying agents or an individual building on top of these platforms, what do you actually do? Because don't use AI agents isn't realistic, and trust OpenAI to figure it out isn't a strategy, it's a prayer. Here's what actual defense looks like in the agentic era. First, zero trust execution. Every agent action gets validated before it executes. Not after, not in a log review, before. If an agent wants to send an email, a separate validation layer checks. Was this action requested by a human? Does the content match expected patterns? Is the recipient on an approved list? This is computationally expensive, it slows things down. And it's the only thing that works. Second, credential minimization. Every NHI gets the absolute minimum permissions required for its task, not admin access to Salesforce, read access to one object, write access to one field, and every credential expires. No long-lived tokens, no permanent service accounts. If an agent needs access, it requests it, and that request gets audited. Third, and this is the big one, memory isolation. The shared context model that makes Frontier powerful is exactly what makes cross-agent injection possible. Defense means segmenting agent memory. The email agent and the financial agent should never share unvalidated context. Every piece of data that crosses agent boundaries goes through a sanitization layer. Yes, this reduces the power of the system. That's the point. Unchecked power is the vulnerability. Fourth, air-gapped execution for critical operations. Anything involving financial transactions, credential management, or sensitive data should never be executed by an internet-connected agent, period. You run a separate isolated environment with no API access, no external webhooks, no shared memory. It receives validated instructions through a controlled handoff, and nothing else. This is the architecture that most enterprises won't build, because it's expensive, it's slow, and it doesn't look good in a demo. But it's the only architecture that survives first contact with a real adversary. Here's what I want you to walk away with. OpenAI launched Frontier knowing that prompt injection may never be fully solved. They launched it after their entire safety leadership resigned, publicly, with warnings. They launched it with an external advisory board instead of an internal safety team. And they launched it into enterprises handling your banking data, your insurance claims, your medical records, and your personal information. The first major agentic AI breach isn't a question of if. It's a question of when, where, and how bad. And when it happens, the companies that survive will be the ones that treated sovereignty, real isolation, real validation, real control, as a feature, not a bug. The question you should be asking yourself, whether you're running a business, building software, or just trusting these platforms with your data, is simple. Who's watching the watchers? Because right now, the answer is nobody. That's the threat model nobody in AI media wants to explain to you, because it's not sexy, it's not GPT-5 features, it's not image generation, it's the infrastructure underneath all of it, and it's wide open. If this is the kind of analysis you need, subscribe to Declassified Intelligence. We read the papers, the filings, and the resignation letters so you don't have to. Drop a comment. Do you think the first major agentic AI breach happens in 2026? And which company gets hit first? I'll see you in the next one.